Welcome everyone to another episode of the Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi podcast. I'm your co-host, Darth Celine.
And I am your main host, the Artificial Dragon, and welcome to the second episode of a podcast, this year of a podcast, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. The day of the recording of this episode will be Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so I hope you are having a wonderful federal day holiday off or getting those extra work hours. I definitely know I am. But, yeah.
Hey, that makes no difference. At least in my case.
Oh, man. But real life things aside, I'll go ahead and get the Patreon things out of the way. But I think I'll do this first. Shout out to all the smugglers who have contributed to the podcast. It's been a while since I did this, but I'll give everybody a shout out. Thank you so much for Y Wolves, Cameron Lee, Dr. Mboss, Gomez, Tristan H, and last but not least, Irk the Turtle. Yeah, one of our most loyal Patreons for the past couple of years. And
Not even just a loyal Patreon, but a damn good friend.
Oh yeah, he's been he's been helping out with a lot of D&D sessions, both on my side and Hannah's side. So thank you so much for being such a good friend to us, Irk the Turtle. That comes from right in the heart, bruh.
Shout out to not shout out, but support my blog.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm tired. Long work day.
Yeah, I feel ya, Hannah. But yeah, shout out to Celine's Cantina. It's really nice that you actually gave your, I suppose, Q&A Switor side of things a identity, if that makes any sense, Hannah.
Yeah, it's like answering questions, and I'm trying a little bit of a short story now.
Yeah.
A short story format. So Part 1 and 2 are already published, so if you want to go check that out, please do.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice read, especially when you haven't done too much writing recently, Hannah, but yeah, it's really nice to see you back in the writing gig right now.
I'm trying to, at least.
Yeah, I always appreciate a fellow writer. That reminds me, I need to try doing my own novels one of these days.
That and you need to send me questions. And like everyone else needs to send me questions.
Don't worry.
Only Irk has been sending me questions aside from one from Mboss.
Don't worry. I'll lob you a couple of questions after this episode is done.
Nice. Thank you.
You are definitely welcome, Darth Celine. But yeah, for all of you that love our content, once again, you could go contribute to our Patreon at patreon.com/canmayo. Once again, that's patreon.com/canmayo, where you could contribute to any amount, the lowest being $2 and the highest being $10. And any amount you contribute to, you could have instant access to our Discord server where you could talk general Star Wars lore, share memes, and just have a good old fun time with us, or just ask people if they want to play Star Wars games here and there.
I finally still got Star Wars Empire at War. The controls are hard as fuck, but I'm trying.
It is an old game, so that's understandable, Hannah. Oh yeah, another live stream idea we should try out one of these days.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah, I'll quickly get this Patreon reward out of the way. This month, for our Patreon art piece, we have a sexy Satio Sean. I finally remembered her name this time. But yes, Satio Sean. If you love your Dami Lami MILFs, there's a Jedi version of that now, so go ahead and check her out, download her, post her as your background for your phone, or just print her out as a general poster or something like that.
I've got our Count Dooku as my phone background and Valkorian as my my lock screen.
Oh, how long have you had those things? Like a year or so right now?
Almost over a year.
Yeah, that is commitment, Hannah, and I appreciate that.
I know, I'm surprised I don't have Thrawn anywhere, but I can't put multiple pictures on my home screen.
If only we could, collect them all with the dynamic trio. But, you got your priorities straight, Hannah.
Yes.
But yeah.
But I'm more leaning towards Thrawn after finishing Heir to the Empire and the trilogy that follows that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how you react to those novels. I heard they're pretty good.
They are very good. Highly
Yeah.
recommended.
All right. Heir to the Empire. I'll have to listen to it for myself, but semantics. But
Anyway,
anyway,
moving on to the meat of the episode.
yeah, the main meat of this episode, Hannah. I already told it to you last episode, and I think it's fresh in your mind. What are we doing today, Hannah?
Part 2 of the Jedi Order? History of the
Yes.
Jedi?
Yes, that is correct. We're doing a part 2 of the Order of a Jedi Order.
The history of the Jedi Order.
Yeah. So if you do recall from last time, we were basically excuse me. We were basically talking about kind of the origins of the Jedi Order and more about its predecessor state, which is the Jedi Order.
The Jedi.
Yeah, I know. I always, the weird spelling always throws me off, and gotta add that die at the end. But yeah, as we recall, the Jedi Order had a balance between the light side and the dark side. Very unique, very gray Jedi style of them. And then something changed, and they're like, fuck this, we're gonna go pure light side now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is where we are going to pick off from our history of a Jedi. So let's go ahead and get into this. So,
Okay.
yeah, following the Force Wars and the restructuring of the Jedi Order into what would become the Jedi Order, the new organization would abandon their homeworld of Typhon because, they have a lot of pure lightsiders, so it's probably essentially uninhabitable to live on until like many years later during the Old Republic era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the Jedi decided, you know what? We're going to leave Typhon, our old homeworld. We're going to take several of our surviving texts and scriptures, put them on a couple of ships, and go out into the new frontier to find new purpose and a new home for us to rebuild our order and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exactly go into detail of how long they were out in space for, but they went all the way from the deep core till they stopped in the middle of essentially buttfuck nowhere in the region of wild space, which, if you recall, is where roughly Camino is.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick refresher. Wild space is that region between the Outer Rim and the Unknown regions. It's kind of unexplored, but not at the same time.
It's like there are a few planets in that part of space.
Yeah, and they stumbled upon this lovely world by the name of Oess, and that is where they build their first Jedi temple.
Okay. That was when I was playing the Oess expansion for I think it was Legacy of the Sith.
Oh yeah, I've never gone that far.
It's one of the kind of recent-ish expansions, but they mention Oess, but I was like, I didn't know that was a home world for the Jedi before Coruscant and Tython before that, but
yeah,
now I know.
Yeah, it's always good to get a lot of these contexts. It was Typhon, then it was Oess, then it was kind of Coruscant because that's where the main Jedi temple is for the prequels resides, but yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so, they did their regular thing. They went to Oess, created their own Jedi temple to devote their time toward the Ashla and warning against the evils of the Bogan. Back then, it wasn't quite called the light side and the dark side. It was Ashla and the Bogan.
Yep, we mentioned that in part 1.
Yeah. And uniquely enough, this was right around the time where the Galactic Republic was starting to be founded by, all these founding worlds like Coruscant, Corellia, Duros, all of that stuff. The Jedi were kind of aware of the Republic, and they had purposefully kept their distance. Like, okay, those people do whatever they want over there. We want to stay where we are within our own borders and just, leave us alone, and we won't do anything with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, they were just kind of isolationists in the beginning. But fortunately, They would welcome
How the fuck do
that.
we turn into peacekeepers for the Republic?
We're about to get there, Hannah. Don't worry.
All right.
But while the Jedi were just recreating their temple, building up their numbers, they would welcome members of other Force-using organizations within their ranks, and they're kind of doing the classic thing. You know how I'm kind of out of touch with my own history, real world history, but you know how Catholics would go out and try and reconvert the native inhabitants to Christianity and all that?
Yes. It's like either do it or we'll force you to.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like that, but basically the Jedi, they would welcome members from other Force-using organizations like the Baron Sages and all those kinds of people.
Okay.
And it was basically them merging their own philosophies and assimilating many other groups into their fold, like being inclusive, but it's kind of like a boiling pot of many different philosophies with the Jedi Order, because I think they're just trying to figure out what their founding philosophy is, and they're just kind of including other philosophies from all of these rival Force organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, during this period, the Jedi would still use the traditions of their predecessors, which can be seen with their main weapons, which are the Force sabers, which are basically the katana, but it's imbued with the Force and all that.
Oh, okay. I remember that. And that was also part 1, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was part 1.
Okay.
And yeah.
It's been a while, so.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, Hannah, but yeah, they still use normal ass swords, but they're imbued with the Force, and kind of just keeping up the grand tradition that was created by the Great Temple that was based at the center of a volcano, which is the most metal thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And basically they would use the sword and the creation of the sword as a initiation ceremony, and they would still imbue them with Force energy, for self-defense and all that. I mean, they're not exactly going out and conquering other civilizations. It was just there for self-defense and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Though eventually the Jedi would start to get closer to creating the iconic weapon, which is, their lightsaber.
A lightsaber.
Yeah, through reverse engineering of the Rakata Force Saber, which, if you recall, is basically the ancient lightsaber, but they activate it by using the dark side of the Force.
Oh. Was that also in the first Jedi episode, or?
We briefly talked about that in the first Jedi episode, but I think we got more into depth with that with the lightsaber episode like several years ago.
That's been how many years now?
Yeah, back when back when Kid was a regular member of the podcast.
We miss you, buddy.
Yeah, we miss you, Kid. I'm not sure if you watch these videos, but we miss you.
Anyway.
But yeah, they would the prototype of a lightsaber wasn't exactly there. It was just in the developmental stages. So in the meantime, they're just using normal everyday swords as their main weapon, their main icon of peace, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Many years later, they would eventually make contact with the Republic, and both of them would become allies, though the Order opted to remain isolationist, but still supporting the Republic's goal of peace from afar. They're not exactly participating in the politics of the Republic, they're just like, hey, we'll do our thing over here. If you need us, we'll support you in any way we can, but don't expect us to go to war with you if you ever do, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this, ironically enough, became a huge boon for the Republic because, there's numerous alien cultures that's part of the Republic, and a lot of philosophers, all of these great thinkers who have these revolutionary ideas on peace throughout the galaxy, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And through this connection, they would attract this group of aliens called the Kamasi. You probably remember the Kamasi, don't you?
Yes, I do remember the Kamasi.
Yeah, they're like the...
They're weird looking.
Yeah, they're like kind of shrew people, I guess is the best description of them.
The way they have the art of them for the races in Star Wars 5e. They
Yeah.
look like weird bat creatures, and it's just like completely different to the Chadrapans. They have like fucking huge noses.
Yeah, they kind of do actually. Yeah, but shorter ears, but
Hmm.
semantics anyway. So the Kamasi, there would be an individual Kamasi who would go to the Jedi temple and he would preach these principles of justice, and eventually these principles would lay the groundwork for the Jedi's order on the Jedi's view of galactic justice and their role as peacekeepers. So if you really think about it, the Kamasi were the ones that influenced the ideals of the Jedi Order and all of that.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
it is pretty interesting. But despite this new era of enlightenment for the Jedi Order, the and you might see a huge trend throughout a lot of these episodes. The High Council would assert its authority over members of the Order, limiting individuality and crafting several exclusionary regulations.
So they made the rules.
Yeah, pretty much. You think the Jedi during the prequels was arbitrary? Oh boy, they didn't have shit to the early High Council.
Oh, I'm sure they were probably strict as hell.
Oh yeah, they are very restrictive. Like, I'm pretty sure it was pretty obvious from the beginning, but they would absolutely restrict any study on the Bogan, aka the dark side of the Force.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, this attempt by the Jedi Council would limit free thinking amongst its members, and this notion would be challenged by a prominent Jedi Knight. Let me go ahead and prepare an image for him. And this Jedi goes by the name of Xandor. Think of Xandor as kind of basically Anakin, Revan, Exar Kun, all
Ex-Archon of
those,
his
yeah,
time.
the Exar Kun of his time, yeah. He's that guy with a sword. He kind of looks like a
Well,
badass.
yeah. He probably doesn't look like a chick.
Yeah, I was looking at comments
Our
on.
concept is actually really cool.
Yeah, he looks absolutely cool. That katana also looks really cool.
That's what I said. The katana concept looks awesome.
Yeah,
They
I
look like force-wielding samurai.
yeah, he pretty much does look like a samurai, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I was before we were doing recordings for this episode, I was looking at comments for the sneak preview of this week's episode, and one of our fellow YouTubers, Darth Metu, actually made a comment, and he was like, "Oh, hey, it's Xandu, the Giga Chad himself."
I think I saw that earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Xandor, there's not too much known about him, as you'll see a common theme with these types of characters. Their past is kind of shrouded in mystery. Like, we don't know his childhood, we don't know his exact age, but we do know a little
Kind of
bit.
like Exarchon.
Yeah, pretty much like Exar Kun. Fortunately, we do know what world he came from. So, Xandor was formerly a member of the Kashmir dynasty. It's basically one of those ancient human civilizations that was, from what I could remember, they're basically it's very self-explanatory. It's basically a empire, very similar to the dynasties of China and all that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, his look as a ancient samurai. Well, okay, it's a different part of Asia, but you get what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, eventually Xandor would be exiled, and very, very perfect timing because his homeworld was consumed by a supernova, effectively making Xandor the last of his unique civilization.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of tragedy with Xandor right off the bat.
It builds character.
Yeah, it does. Fortunately, I mean, it doesn't exactly say how old he was, but I'm just gonna reckon he was like a teenager or a young adult by the time he was accepted into the Jedi Order.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, they weren't taking kids yet.
No, this was This was basically the implementation before they went to indoctrinating kids and all that fun stuff. I would reckon, because it doesn't have any mention of that sort of practice, but the High Council hasn't changed in the very least.
No, they haven't.
But yeah, fortunately, Xandor, he would be accepted into the Jedi Order, and he would slowly climb up the ranks, eventually becoming a well-respected Jedi Knight. And he was noted as one of the more outspoken members of the High Council's more closed-minded policies, because he was all about training the ways of the Bogan, learning about it and perhaps utilizing it in a way that doesn't corrupt one to the dark side or anything like that. But the High Council's like, no, you can't do that, no matter what.
It's just like strict, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Within the Order, he would come across a woman by the name of Ardan Lynn, who was the woman right next to him.
Okay.
But I'll actually send you a better picture of her, because she is honestly kind of an interesting character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she looks cool.
Cybernetic arm, that's cool.
Yeah, she looks cool as hell.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, where was I? Okay. So Ardan, she is part of a religious organization called the Followers of Palawa. And basically, they're an ancient group that studied the Force and metachlorians, and they developed the martial art known as Teras Kasi. You may have heard Teras Kasi a couple of times. It's the martial art that Kira and Maul practice in the new canon of Star Wars.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, Dryden Voss. There's a lot of expanded lore material.
I need to watch Solo again.
Yeah. But yeah, Dryden Voss and Kira would be practitioners of Teras Kasi.
Kira's a badass. She is one of my favorite female characters.
Oh yeah, especially in the new comics.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in the newer comics, she's kind of a badass.
Need to start looking at those.
But yeah, Teras Kasi, you want to know what it's called in basic?
Sure.
Steel Hand.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so basically Teras Kasi was a martial art, and you'll probably think this is pretty cool. Teras Kasi was originally developed by the Followers of Palawa as a weapon against the Jedi Order itself.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. So yeah, the Followers of Palawa, they kind of have a little bit of bad blood with the Jedi Order, because they, to make a long story short, played a part in invading their world and basically driving them off of it. And they're like, fuck you, we're going to develop this martial art to combat you one day.
Okay.
Yeah. And Ardan Lynn is a master of Teras Kasi.
Though she looks like it.
Oh, yeah. We'll eventually take another shot. We'll eventually talk about Teras Kasi one of these days in depth, but it's one of those martial arts.
You just need to start putting up your sticker eventually.
Take another shot. But yeah,
you just need to put up the sticker from the Discord server just eventually.
Yeah. I gotta use that more often because yeah, it's gotta be a meme right now.
Yes, it has.
But yeah, Ardan Lynn, she would, before she joined the Jedi Order, she would go to this, long story short, she went to this ancient machine, very appropriately called the Oracle. And this ancient device would provide intense visions to any Force users that encountered it. And she saw a vision where she would travel to Oess, where she would find a man with a clever mind and a fair face, and learn from him the secrets of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And Ardan Lynn would travel to Oess, where she too would be taken under the Jedi Order's wing, and she would become a student. Though she also grew dissatisfied with the Jedi, becoming basically pacifists and peacekeepers.
Well, it is a trend.
It is a very huge trend. But yeah, eventually Xandor would come across Ardan. And, Ardan would see this man with a fair face. And she's like, oh, this is the guy I was prophesized to get together with and all that stuff. And,
Okay.
and she would teach Xandor the philosophies of Teras Kasi. And both of them would, grow this deep bond with each other. And she would become one of his most loyal followers and eventually his consort.
Okay.
Yeah, and Xandor, while learning everything he can from his lover, he still remained frustrated with the council on restricting the Bogan, and would eventually approach the Jedi High Council, and he would humbly request that he would receive their blessings on opening a new Jedi Academy far from Oess to explore the darker aspects of the Force.
Finally.
Yeah, so Xandor pulling the honest move here by going directly to the High Council and being like, hey, I know you guys are a little bit restrictive, but I pledge to you as a fellow Jedi Knight, I want to explore other aspects, and it doesn't have to be here on Oess where all the rest of the Jedi are. We could go somewhere else. We don't have to bother you. Just please give me permission to start a new temple in this new line of thinking that we have here. And what do you think the council said to this?
Probably no.
Yeah, the council would pretty much deny his request.
Of course.
But, Xandor, he's not the guy who gives up that easily. And he quietly broke his ties with the Jedi Order, and he went off to the world of Latau to open his academy to explore the Bogan.
Oh, so first Sith Academy.
Not
basically.
Not quite.
Dark Side Academy.
Yeah, a Dark Side Academy. Not quite Sith Academy, because I think this is like several centuries before the actual Dark Jedi would go out and, find the Sith and create their first Sith Empire. But yeah, if it isn't obvious already, Xandor, he has the goal of he has the right intentions, but, just in the wrong direction, if that makes any sense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
Yeah. So, he would go to Latau, and drawing upon the multiple Force traditions through the Dai Bendu, the followers of Palawa, the Kashmir Guardians of the Breath, the Baron Do, and the Chatos Academy, Xandor's academy would eventually build itself up, and it would draw a trickle of interest, which led to growing a small following. Like, he had numerous students, and I think several Jedi of the Oess's academy joined his side too.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, because he's not the only dude that had a problem with the High Council's restriction on the Bogan. There's a couple of Jedi that are like, hey, maybe we should explore the Bogan, understand it a lot more, instead of closing it off and throwing the key away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would be these acolytes that would name this new group the Legions of Latau, as they believed that they would one day be forced to defend their new traditions from the Jedi High Council's wrath.
Okay.
But yeah, during, so kind of an interesting input on Xandor's life. So Xandor, he would every once in a while go off into the galaxy to find more knowledge and get much more enlightenment from other Force-using organizations. He eventually would come across a couple of interesting people, as he once recounted to Ardan Lynn. So basically, he tells the story of how he stumbled upon a dead world, where the Force was worshipped as a trio of beings, and you probably know who these beings are.
The ones.
The ones! And he called these people the daughter, the son, and the father.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And
Is that the very first mention of them?
I think that is the very first mention of the ones, at least from a, legends aspect.
I know.
But yeah,
Well, at least they're in canon now, so.
Yeah, at least they're in canon now, which is super dope. Thank you, George Lucas.
Yes.
But yeah, he would encounter these beings, and when Lynn was pretty curious on what Xandor found, and she was all like, "Well, what did you learn from him?" And Xandor, he would cryptically reply that these beings might have been aspects of a force themselves. As we all know, the son is the dark side, the daughter is the light side, and the father might be just the force itself, or the balance in between them.
Yeah.
And when Lynn asked what he had discovered, Xandor would laugh, and he would say this. Even now, you refuse to understand. There are as many truths to the Force as there are hearts within the Force, and manifests itself. The existence of a triad has no more bearing on the reality of the Force than the Ashla and the Bogan or anything. I tell you, or anything you tell others, any philosophy, creed, or religion that opens their heart to the Force proves itself to be true. My legions follow the diktats of such a creed, but that is only in demonstration of the application of power, Ardan. It says nothing about the rightness of our beliefs or the universality of our faith.
Badass quote.
Yeah, he was kind of a enlightened individual. Like, from what I can gather, his aspect is like, anybody can worship the Force any way they see fit. Like the Jedi going with the aspect of the Ashla, the Baron Du just focusing on the Force as a whole. It doesn't matter. As long as you're worshiping the Force, it doesn't matter what creed or what line of thinking or philosophy you're going behind it. As long as you're worshiping the Force, that's all that's needed.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of an enlightened individual of his time.
Like a philosopher.
Yeah, he was absolutely a philosopher. A badass warrior philosopher, but yeah, a philosopher.
Kit would like that.
Yeah. Though as more and more followers joined the legions of Letao, they, started going a little bit, dark side, and they embraced their deepest extremes, outright rejecting the idea of order and structure, and celebrated their newfound freedom by giving in to their passions and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Really going off the deep end right off the bat. And you probably can ascertain what happens next.
Yes.
So, what happened sometime in the 24,500 BBY? Open warfare exploded between the Jedi Order and the legions of Letao in what is known in the history of the Jedi as the Great Schism.
Okay.
And it would later be renamed the First Great Schism because, well, the Second Great Schism was with the Dark Jedi that joined the Sith and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sources are kind of meddled on who started the war, as it varied from account to account, with some claiming it was the Jedi Order that started it first, after they saw the growing darkness within Xandor's followers, and, wanted to eliminate them right off the bat.
Okay.
On the other hand, some claim it was Xandor who attacked the Jedi first, believing that they would not stand by and allow his precious academy to continue its existence.
Okay.
But regardless of what is true, Xandor would do everything he can to put a black mark on the Jedi's history. Like, he would outright do propaganda pieces to, draw the citizens of a republic to his side by claiming that the Jedi Order were trying to seize power under the guise of peacekeepers.
So even then, people are against the Jedi.
Yeah, and I find that kind of ironic considering that if you...
Very ironic.
Yeah, which if you recall in Revenge of the Sith, Mace Windu kind of considered killing Palpatine and taking control of the Republic and something like that.
If only.
If only. But fortunately, the Republic saw through the deception and pleaded their aid to the Jedi Order as the Great Schism erupted across many worlds, even on the world of Coruscant itself. It was like a galaxy-wide conflict.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah. Though, on the world of Kalumis, a force of the Jedi Order that would be commanded by this Jedi Master. I'm not going to say his full name because it's not too important, but this Jedi Master was named Pina, but he was otherwise given the moniker of the Green Blade.
Okay.
So yeah, I reckon I think it was just a average Jedi sword, but it glowed green. That's why it was called the Green Blade.
Well, yeah, because this other guy's one is yellow.
Yeah. So the Green Blade would clash against the legions of Letau, which was personally commanded by Xandor himself. And both Xandor and Lynn were kind of heartbroken that they had to fight against the Green Blade, because he was one of the few Jedi that was also a free thinker, and Xandor kind of admitted he would have loved to have the Green Blade by his side, leading the legions of Letau, but he decided to stick with the Jedi Order regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, Xandor would be cut off from his own forces, and he would be struck down by the Green Blade himself.
Oof.
Yeah, kind of a unceremonious ending for Xandor because he sounds like such a cool character.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I would have loved to get more information on this guy, but yeah, he would be unfortunately killed during this battle, and the command of the legions of Letau would be passed on to his consort, Ardan Lynn.
Nice.
Yeah. But even though Ardan Lynn was a fearsome warrior, she herself, who obviously deeply admired Xandor and was his lover, she legitimately believed that with his death, there was little chance for victory against the Jedi Order.
Shows how badass the Jedi were.
Yeah, and you could imagine how grief-stricken Ardan Lynn was when she saw or heard the news of her lover being struck down by the Jedi.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. She would eventually flee into the unknown regions, though she was followed not far behind by the Green Blade himself, who wanted to, put an end to this legions of Letau through the death of Xandor's consort.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they landed on this world in the unknown regions, and both of them would duel fiercely on the planet. They went pretty hard. Ardan Lynn had her own her own force sword, but eventually her sword would be broken apart by the Green Blade, disarming her of her weapon, and the Green Blade demanded her unconditional surrender. Though unwilling to concede to defeat, Ardan Lynn, calling upon her rage and sorrow, which was channeled into this artifact that was gifted to her by Xandor called the Kashimur Talisman, which gave Ardan Lynn the physical ability to literally, with a single punch, she was able to destroy the Jedi Master's sword into 1,000,000 fragments.
Wow.
And she
Just dark side fueled super strength.
yeah, pretty much. And most of these fragments would actually embed themselves in the Jedi Master himself, mortally wounding him.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Jedi Master basically laid there dying from this retaliation by Ardan Lynn's hands.
Mm-hmm.
But as an act of retaliation, the Green Blade would call upon the Force to employ a rarely utilized Force technique against Ardan Lynn, which is called Makar Yaddle, which, if you recall, is the Force ability that Yaddle uses.
It's been a while since the Yaddle episode. I can't remember
No
what
worries.
it actually does.
Okay, no worries. Basically, it's a Force ability that seizes all bodily functions.
Oh.
So yeah, it seized all of Lynn's functions and ultimately stopped her heart, and she just slumped to the ground.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's a reason why only Yaddle was allowed to use that Force ability.
She didn't abuse it.
No, she did not. Only in the most desperate of circumstances.
Fair, but still, damn.
Yeah. So yeah, after that, ultimately the legions of Litau would be completely exterminated on their world of Litau, though fortunately some followers of Xandor would flee beyond the boundaries of the Republic, like Ardan Lynn did. And the Great Schism finally came to an end, though the Jedi would prevail this day. One of the more famous aspects of the first Great Schism was this little holo recording of the sole survivor of the Battle of Columnus. It was recorded by this Padawan of a Green Blade named Potts. And basically it's like one of those, last recording sort of things.
And, like final words and testaments.
Final words, final outlook on life, and some of the things he says were kind of interesting because he knew a couple of the Jedi that he fought on the battle, and they were basically the living definitions of a true Jedi Knight and Master, but they went to Xandor's side because they thought he had the right idea about the Bogan and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of puts him into perspective, as if was it right for us to attack Xandor and all of that? Was this all for nothing sort of thing? And one of the quotes that he says was, "It seems too easy to blame everything on Xandor and the dark side. Maybe the Jedi were partially to blame too."
Well, kinda.
Yeah, which also puts into perspective about a lot of things that we see in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, we talked numerous times about Anakin Skywalker being abused Anakin Skywalker wasn't exactly right in the head, and Palpatine took control of that.
Fucked up.
And Palpatine took control of that, but the Jedi Council...
Of course, he's a manipulator.
Yeah, but let's be honest, the Jedi Council weren't exactly treating Anakin that well, or respected him.
No, they were not.
No. But yeah.
Yeah, history kind of repeats itself.
Oh yes, multiple times we have Xandor, Exar Kun, Darth Vader, Count Dooku, shall I go on?
At least they kind of changed it up with Rey, but it still wasn't good.
No.
I mean, the Heir to the Empire and the Legends continuity after that just has so much better content.
Yeah, so much better written characters at least.
Yes, like Mara Jade and
yeah.
Card.
Oh, yes. But yeah, after the first Great Schism, the Jedi would once again withdraw back to Oess, remaining isolationist, but they would once again see conflict, not with themselves, but with the Republic when they went to war against the Tionese. And you probably heard a couple things about the Tionese in the Old Republic, right?
Somewhat.
I do believe like the home. Oh, god damn it! What was the force sensitive race from SWTOR again? I forget them right now.
Which one?
That's fair. The bold ones.
Umbarans?
No. God damn it. Okay, it'll come back to me later. But you did an episode on them.
Oh, the Voss.
There we go. The Voss. Weren't they in Tion space?
I think so. I think they are in the Tion sector.
Okay, yeah. So you at least you'll know that with that context. But this is more Republic related than it is Jedi. But we'll eventually talk about the conflict between the Republic and the Tionese in its own episode. But basically, the Tionese were a rival human faction that didn't see Coruscant eye to eye because they were both Eucatopolises, and they had a lot of bad blood between each other, from what I can remember. So basically, the Jedi Order at first didn't want to get involved in this war between the Republic and the Tion cluster, but after a long internal debate, the High Council decided to get involved, siding with the Republic and becoming commanders in the Republic Army.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they fulfilled the same role they did eventually in the Clone Wars, like many years later.
And they also do it in the Old Republic.
Yeah, and SWTOR. Pacifist my ass.
Yeah, the Republic is not pacifist.
Yeah, so while the war was all but won, the Republic decided to sterilize this one world, something of which horrified the Jedi Order. Like, it wasn't specified what they mean by sterilize. I imagine it was like a bunch of chemical warfare or something like that. That's the reason why the Jedi Order were so horrified by this act.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after this, the Jedi Order would have a meeting with a couple of Republic representatives above the world. And basically, they came to an agreement. They will not serve the government, but they will establish a network of watchmen to protect the Perlemian trade route from both the Tionese and the Hutts. And the Republic, in return, would disband its military and start relying on sector and system-based defense fleets. So basically, essentially what the Republic was during the prequels before the Clone Army came in.
Okay.
So yeah, this was kind of a political act by the Republic to gain back the trust of the Jedi Order. Like, hey, we know we made a huge oops by sterilizing that world, but we're disbanding our military, so we cool now? And the Jedi Order was like, yeah, we cool now.
Nice.
Yeah. As for Xandor himself, he would be remembered as the first Dark Jedi, and it was even speculated by Ardan Lynn herself that instead of her lover wanting to be slain by the Green Blade, his spirit would instead be plunged into the dark, or as we know, it's chaos of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And this, yeah, basically hell. Though it is important to keep in mind that Ardan Lynn wasn't present during the battle where Xandor was slain by the Green Blade. So Ardan Lynn probably wanted to grasp at straws at that point. Like, hey, my lover is not actually dead. Stop telling me that he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thousands of years later, during the new Sith Wars, there would be this new mysterious figure that would emerge to lead the Sith. And this figure, if you recall from one of our Halloween episodes, specifically the Ghost Stories one, this figure would be called the Dark Underlord. And one of the speculations that was made about him was basically this was the reincarnated spirit of Xandor, brought back from the realm of chaos to fight amongst the living.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
I need to listen to that episode again.
Yeah. Let me actually send you a picture of the Dark Underlord to refresh your memory a little bit, because...
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, the Dark Underlord is kind of a badass character. The Dark Underlord. But that's just one of the many theories about the Dark Underlord, is that Xandor came back for revenge as this living specter of the dark side. There we go.
Oh. Damn.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah. It looks so cool, though.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Ardan Lynn herself, though, she would have died by the Green Blade when he, shut down all of her systems and everything. Though she miraculously survived due to her possessing the Kashimur talisman, which basically kind of brought her back to life, not completely, killing her, because it was imbued with her literal rage and sorrow and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, she would fall into what is called a force trance. And along the lines, she would be discovered by an unknown third party who saw her body and decided to make a tomb around her body, sealing her away for many centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And Ardan Lynn, she would eventually be rediscovered during the reign of the Empire, 25,000 years later.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There were just some random scouts who were just exploring the unknown regions, and, they came across her tomb, and from what it's described, her body was not intact. It was decomposing under that tomb and everything. The moment they disturbed the Kashimur talisman, and they left it in her proximity, she would basically be brought back to life, her skin regrowing and looking as young as she did 25,000 years ago.
Wow.
And believing that she was still in her current era of a Star Wars galaxy, she attacked the scouts, believing that they're servants of a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And after her reawakening, she would attract the attention of Palpatine's personal Jedi hunters, which are called the Inquisitors. Yeah, they do have Inquisitors in the Legends era of Star Wars. Not quite like canon, but yeah, they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 2 Inquisitors that went to try capturing her. She was not going down easily, though. She single-handedly killed one of the Inquisitors with her bare hands, and the other one cleaved off her right arm, incapacitating her effectively.
Oof.
And, this impressive individual who's a force sensitive and is skilled in the art of Teras Kasi, the Inquisition would bring Ardan Lynn before Palpatine himself, who was very impressed by her skills. And he believed she would prove to be a useful tool against the growing Rebel Alliance, especially after they destroyed his first Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
And, just a little bit of background. Ardan Lynn appears in the very first fighting game of the Star Wars franchise called The Masters of Teras Kasi. It was made back in, 1997 or something.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time ago.
It was a long-ass time ago. But yeah, I believe,
now I feel old.
Sorry about that, Hannah. But yeah, Ardan Lynn... I know I keep repeating her full name every single time, but I'll just call her Lynn for now. But yeah, Lynn, she would be given a replacement arm. Like if you see in her picture, she has a robot arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
a badass robot arm.
It is a badass robot arm. Palpatine would give her a cybernetic arm that was originated from an ancient Republic combat droid. And Palpatine basically proclaimed Lynn as one of the Emperor's hands, which, if you recall, Mara Jade is an Emperor's hand.
Yes, and there are more of them.
Oh,
and
yes.
He lied, saying, "Oh, you're the only one."
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah, we'll eventually talk about the Emperor's hands and all the other synonymous ranks in the Empire, because there is a lot of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Valkorion had them too, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that is fair. One thing that Palpatine took inspiration from.
Yes.
But yeah, so she would serve as Palpatine's Emperor's hand, and in return, Palpatine led her with a false promise of reviving her long-dead lover, Xandor. So basically the same proposal that Palpatine did with Anakin Skywalker so many years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, Ardan Lynn, she's basically a temporal fish out of water. She woke up to a galaxy she does not recognize at all.
It reminds me kind of, The Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah.
The Fifth Element.
Yeah, going back to Fifth Element again, I still need to fucking watch that movie.
Such a good fucking movie.
Oh, yes, it is. And here's a, kind of a heartbreaking quote from Lynn that she recounts. Mm-hmm. I awoke to find that 25,000 years had gone by. All I knew and all I loved curdled into history, then dismissed as myth. Not even dust remains of those who were dear to me. I have outlived planets, and the very constellations are scrambled and strange. I am alone in a way none of you can possibly imagine.
Oof.
Yeah, she kind of has this huge, she's suffering
That's
from
such a better written character.
Yeah.
Than fucking Rey.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck, Disney?
Yeah, any female character from the Legends era of Star Wars is many times better than Rey.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish that,
so much better.
Yeah, I just wish that the game she was introduced to was, better, because, it has one of those instances of bad game syndrome.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's not the point of this episode. Over time, Ardan Lynn would realize that Palpatine would not follow through with his promise of reviving her lost love, and she would eventually go rogue. So in the game, she has a couple of students that she personally trained in the art of Teras Kasi, and one of them is a sand person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I gotta copy and paste this for you, but it's one of those old instances of giving people names by their personality or the sounds they utter. It's so fucking stupid. Let me see if I can find it real quickly for you. Okay, Anna, I want you to look in the chat. See if you could pronounce this name for me.
Nope, not gonna try.
Yeah, that's the literal name of a character in the fighting game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really, really weird.
Kind of like how like mocap in Mortal Kombat. It's like, okay, that's weird, but this is just unpronounceable.
Oh man, I'm, by the way, very proud of you for mentioning an old Mortal Kombat game.
Yeah, kind of getting into it now that I'm more into like Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, the lore is so weird, but it's actually kind of fun in its own way, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, Ardan Lynn, she would train a couple of students, but I think she actually falls in love with another Dark Jedi, but unfortunately, during the Dark Empire series, the newly revived Emperor would eventually track her down and murdered her in revenge for abandoning him.
Oof. Damn it.
Yeah.
She was such a cool character. She didn't deserve to die.
Yeah, Ardan Lynn is such a cool character. Like I said, both her and Xandor, they need like a novel series to explore how, how they came to be what they are in history and all that. Like it's a Star Wars love story waiting to happen.
Oh yeah.
But I would go more into depth about the next Great Schism of a Jedi Order, but I kind of talked about that in the History of a Sith episode, and that's more relevant on their side of things anyway.
Yeah.
But this is a relatively short episode. That's all I have for the History of a Jedi Part 2.
Will we eventually make a part 3? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll eventually make a part 3. We have a whole lot of things to catch up on for both the Sith and the Jedi.
Yay.
So, Hannah, what did you think about that exploration of two very cool yet underutilized characters?
Ardan Lynn is such a cool fucking character.
Yeah, she
I just found another character I like. Legends is just so much fucking better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also like Kira, who's also canon.
I know, but a lot of Legends stuff is just better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, of course, there's a couple of things. Oh, man. Yeah, I feel that pain, Hannah. I feel that pain in my very soul.
Yeah, I'm seriously started to consider saving up to go to Legends Con with you.
That would be appreciated, my fellow co-hosts. I'll have to see if there's any ticket sales anytime soon.
I don't know, but that does sound like a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, real life things aside, that is our episode of Can Mayonnaise Kill a Jedi? Or in this case, oh my god, canon, start making fucking better female characters.
Or just better characters in general.
Alright, well, speaking of characters, Hannah, you want to know what our next episode's going to be about?
Who we talking about?
Oh, you're going to be really excited for this one. So for a new year, we talked about the holidays. We returned to the history of a Jedi. I think it's high time that we explore a popular Legends character. In this next I know, start with a drum roll. Brrr. We will be exploring Mara Jade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be one of those characters that I'm going to visibly stress over because, oh my god, her pages on Wikipedia is redonkulously long.
It is so fucking long.
So I have plenty of material to work with. Yeah. But yeah, Mara Jade, the Legends waifu. There's always a common meme where Legends writers love redheads.
She's absolutely beautiful. Anything that I've seen of fan art for her, she's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. And she's got quite the interesting story, but I'll save that for next week, Hannah.
Yes, she does.
But anyway, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's kind of a shorter episode than normal. Well, okay, I say that, and it's over an hour long at this point, but semantics anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the history of a Jedi, learning a little bit about Xandor and his lover, Ardan Lynn. Very fascinating characters. I hope you enjoy our series in general. And hey, welcome any new viewers of a channel. We've been getting a lot of subscribers recently. I'm hoping to keep the train rolling with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys very much. I'm looking forward to what new shenanigans we get up to in this brave new year for both me and Hannah. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for supporting us through these 2 long years of a podcast.
We appreciate it greatly.
Yes, we do. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and this is the way.
May the Force be with you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.